Hello everyone. Today I'm here with Dr. Ames Jenkins. Now she is part of the movement for Black Power, and she is a very educated sister. We want to speak to her about a few different things that's going on in the community and get her take on that. So Dr. Ames, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. So Dr. Ames, for people that don't know, what is the movement for Black Power?
Well, the Movement for Black Power is an organization here in Washington, D.C. That was designed to bring together a collection of organizations that had a similar mission to defeat white supremacy. The interest of the group has been to build a nation of our own, a nation where we don't need and don't require the outside intrusion of white America. One of the things that we practice are the principles of Pan-Africanism and the principles of Black nationalism. The Movement for Black Power is a part of a collection of a larger organization of the Black Power movement. The Black Power movement was initially founded, and some of the principles we can look back at as the principles that was actually initiated by Dr. Khalid Muhammad and was followed through with the principles of Attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz. So the Movement for Black Power, we are so happy that we have the movement because we're not just a movement. We're a movement that encompasses a variety of organizations. And all these organizations are coming together under one common theme, and that is to defeat white supremacy, but in addition to make sure that we're building an effective Black nation together.
Movement for Black Power. Define for me, what is Black Power?
When we're talking about Black Power, we're talking about, believing in your identity, accepting the fact that you are an African first, and that we possess a beauty and empowerment and ability to actually work for our own selves. When we put up and we talk about Black Power, we're talking about the ability to be able to be in control of our own political force, our own nation, believing in who we are as an African people, and believing that we are united. And, when we're talking about Black Power, we have to look at where it derives, which is, when we use the word Black, it was supposed to be a word of pride, a word to be proud of. It comes out of an era when people wore their afros proudly. And they basically, even when we had the Black Panther Party, they basically boosted that Black power and that Black pride within the community. So when we say Black Power, we're saying Black pride.
Okay, now when you say the word Black Power, do it have anything to threaten any other group of people?
It's not meant to threaten other people, but it's meant to show that we are united and that we're interested in revolutionizing as a Black nation. It involves the principles of Pan-Africanism, and it also involves the principles of Black nationalism. Because when we look at the totality of Black Power, it means to believe in being African, doing all things African, understanding your beauty as an African, and understanding that we can mobilize and do it together in a unified front to show a power that the world has never seen before.
Now, I asked that question because you have a lot of these white supremacist terrorists that slip in and they say, oh, she's saying Black Power. It's no different than white saying white power. That's why I asked you, what did it mean? And do you want to harm other people, or will it harm other people by saying that? So basically for me, it sounds like you just want identity, definitely cultural pride, which is something we need because we didn't have a culture. It was stolen from us. Doing for self, which is we need to do for self, and definitely being in control of our own destiny. I mean, from what you were saying, I was making sure to write down as you was talking. So I don't see anything negative or harmful toward other people. Now, you mentioned nationalism. What is to you Black nationalism?
Black nationalism is actually being responsible as a nation to say, we don't want what you have, but what we want is to be collectively responsible as a Black people for our own fate, That means we want to be responsible for our own banking. We want our own banks. We want our own schools. We want our own nation. We don't want what the white man had. What we want is reparations for our time and our effort and the building of the United Snakes of America. We want that, but we want reparations for our ancestors, for their enslavement. But what we ask for is that we stand together and we're able to run this nation as a private nation, a nation within a nation. So when we're talking about Black nationalism, we're talking about being in control of our own political front. We're talking about being in control of our own future, with our own central government, with our own political parties.
You're saying you want no different than what the Asian community have. They have their banks, their schools, they do for self for the most part. I mean, the Asians, we talked off camera about, used to live here in the Houston area. They have their own police department that's part of the Houston Police Department with their own cops in there.
Absolutely.
In the city of Houston. But you don't see Black people having a division of HPD in the Black communities with Black cops patrolling the Black areas.
Absolutely.
And that's within the system that you have now. So you mentioned basically you want to just do for self, which we definitely promote here, and schools, banks, which we definitely want us to do that. But you mentioned your own country or ethno state. Now, what is the difference between Richard Spencer saying he wants a white ethno state and then what you said? What's the difference?
Well, what it is that, yes, we want, he can say what he wants. And and equally, we have a right to say what we need. And it's no different than what Garvey stated, what Malcolm X stated. And, what ultimately King was trying to fight for. We want our own rights. We want to be not judged by the color of our skin in regards to how white people see us. We want to be in a nation of our own where we're collectively assessed by our own people. But when I say Black nationalism, you cannot, and we as Africans in this country, and we cannot never not identify with the continent of Africa. So even though people can say, hey, white power, Black power, but we have to always remember that Black power also encompasses looking at the theory of Pan-African. Because we as a people not only fight for what we are in the United States as a Black nation of our own, but we also must fight for the principles and the government and the fight against colonialism that is in Africa. Because without the fight in Africa, we are nothing. If we fail to fight and identify as an African, and fight for the principles and the culture of Africa, then we are obsolete. So when we talk about Black nationalism, we must talk about also and identify Pan-Africanism. And a lot of people have missed the marker, and they say as a Black nation, we have to be separate. We have to say, hey, I'm going to either adopt Black nationalism or I'm going to adopt Pan-Africanism. Well, there's two theories of thought. There is one theory, you have one group of people that do not identify as being African at all and want nothing to do with the continent of Africa. And so those people, you have a group of people that just adopt Black nationalist principles. Hey, I believe in having our own banks, our own schools, so they adopt a Black nationalist theory. But they forget the one important principle, which is what? Being African first, and that Africa has everything to do with us here in the United States. We cannot separate ourselves from the continent of Africa. It is the land of our ancestors. The principles and the culture in which we have adopted here in America comes from Africa. When African culture is destroyed, we're destroyed. When you wipe out the culture in which we identify with, then we are nothing more than a white person. What makes us Black and Black power is Black uniqueness. That's the pride we're talking about. That pride is essential pride that comes from Africa.
One thing I noticed With you, everything that you're stating, and even what I'm saying is that as we get more toward Africa and looking into Africa and loving ourselves and having our culture, it's like they are petrified of this. I've seen one of them, alt-right channels. They make all kind of videos. They made like a 15-minute video basically freaking out because of a movie of Black Panther. Now, it said a lot to me what they kept saying in this video. So let me ask you a question. Why are they afraid of Black cultural pride? What is the petrified fear that they have that we just can't have that threatens them?
What threatens them is that the fact that they know that once we recognize consciously our own power as a people, then they are nothing. They are nothing more than the way they started. You see, you have to understand the history of Africa before you can even get to the US. Africans had long founded America before the white man even touched Europe. And we taught them the fundamental principles. They were savage beasts when the Black man came and the Black woman came to Europe. We taught them their culture. I mean, we taught them not their culture. We taught them a systematic way of living. We taught them cleanliness. We taught them how to build. We taught them the fundamental principles of how to what? To survive. When we recognize that we had the power all along, what it is the white man has tried to, for so long, put a camouflage over our true power. They've camouflaged our own history. They've kept that from us by the destruction of our history. In the United States, some many families don't have the ability to trace back your family line. The slave records have been destroyed. Your last name has been adopted under a slave master's name. And you know, there was power, true power in the name of an African. So when you take and you strip the identity of an African and you leave them with a slave master's name, that name takes over that person and the identity is now deleted. So what they fear is that we will soon become knowledgeable. We will soon become conscious of the original power that we've already had. We are the builders of this nation. We are the ones with our sweat and our blood and our tears that has made the white man survive for centuries. So this thing called Black nationalism, Pan-Africanism, Black power, even the Black Power movie, the Black Panther movie, I'm sorry. All of it is a shining example of the true power in which we already had. And that is what the white man fears.
When you talk about the fear and us, you know, getting a knowledge of self, and that in itself, when I can relate to that, when I got more of a knowledge of self, it's like my worldview just completely changed. Yes. I didn't care about certain things that white supremacist terrorists had to say. I didn't care about their feelings. I didn't care about their emotions. I didn't care about nothing at that point. And when you have your eyes open, people call it woke, people call it whatever word they want to call it. But when your eyes are literally open, it's like, okay, we have an issue with him or her. And then they use certain tactics to break Black people down. Now, those tactics, have you experienced them in your life?
I'm going to tell you this. The tactics in which you're talking about, there's a word for them. These tactics are called intentional genocide. The intentional genocide that has been installed in our communities are set up to destroy us. They're on the street corners, in your neighborhood. They are in the foods that we're giving in the supermarkets. They are in the very fundamental principles of the Black family. When you come home and a woman has to come home by herself without the strength and the protection of a king, the division of the Black family, the massive incarceration rate that has actually destroyed Black males for cheap labor. So we're dealing with a series of genocidal tactics that have been installed by the white man in order to what? Destroy our people. Every single day we're under attack. Right now, our numbers are, and you know what we have to start looking at? We got to start looking at our rate of production. Right now, you know, one of the greatest things has been if you study Karl Marx and you just study the economic system of America, when you start looking at it from an economic standpoint, there are not enough resources in America to go around for all people. One group has to be deleted from it all. And a part of that is making sure that America has always put their hand and grip on population control. Population control has been keyly, or how can I say it, has been an intricate part of making sure that their numbers stay where they need to be in order for them to receive the what? The privilege, the economic privilege of society. So white power and white people and the white people of this land, their motive is to make sure that their privilege is never deleted, meaning they can be next to their jobs in the biggest downtown districts. They receive the privilege of property and land. They want to make sure that their economic status never changes. And to do that, they have to eliminate a race. And one of the races that they have to diminish are the poor, the black, and the needy. It was never supposed to be a privilege for us. This is called white privilege. Even during slavery, we were brought here and we crossed that sea in order for the white man's privilege, not for our own privilege. They needed the black women and the black men and the Africans to work that land for their own financial wealth. And this wealth that they received has crossed over centuries.
Yes, it is.
And it has never been deleted. So that privilege that you see in the white man is a privilege that they had during slavery. They just transferred that privilege over the years. So if you ask, are black and white people equal? No, we will never be equal, because their generational line is full of privilege. Even if you see a white homeless person on the street, ask them who their grandfather is. Their grandfather was the owner of several parts of property. In the black economy, in the black economic system, we don't come from that. Our lands was taken from us even after slavery, when the white man gave lands to black people to try to make amends for their brutality. They then snatched the property up from underneath our feet.
Yes, they did. We look at places like Rosewood, Slocum, Texas. You look at places like up there in New York, towns that we built, we talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma, just terrorism that we have suffered at the hands of the Caucasian people. But you mentioned the reproduction in our community, and birth rates is something that the alt-right is really talking about, because globally the European birth rates are down and they can't do nothing about it. They see it any other way. So if their birth rates have went down, there's been an uptick on the tax, definitely on blacks, and then you look at immigrants as well. So what is the play there?
They know that their numbers are dwindling down. They're not producing as fast. Their production, they know their numbers. The problem is that we know our numbers. We don't know our numbers as well either. But when we start to take a look at our production rate, we notice that men and women are both, or let's say black girls and black boys, at the time that they grew, at the time, let's say of 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, there is an equal population of black girls to black boys. This is in statistics. You can take a look at it when the birth rate if you take a look at the black birth rate, it is an equal number of boys and girls born every single year. Okay, there is not an unequal rate. The rate becomes unequal after a black male turns 18 to 21 years old. Then there's a decline in the black male rate. And that decline is largely attributed to mass incarceration. death, black on black violence. So the black male is not supposed to survive by the age of 30. His population line is supposed to decrease substantially in numbers to make it an unequal population between black male and black females. Now, in states like North Carolina, you have what we call 100 black women to 40 black men. Right now, what we're talking about is an unequal distribution in every state. The black male is being ripped from the black family, but he's being ripped for a major purpose. They want to destroy the family of black male, black female, so that they can create a nation in which the black male is obsolete. Now, you got to look at this, and you got to look at the trait and take it back to slavery. When you look at slavery, the biggest producer on the field was the black woman. She stood there, she produced cotton, she worked the field, she worked the house, and she was his bed mistress. So when you think about the tactics of the white man, it's to make sure that our black men are obsolete because they want what they want, and that is what they want is a black woman. The black man stands in our position for protection. He stands in our position to make sure he uplifts the black woman. What the white man doesn't want is for that family to come together. Because when that family comes together, there is a power like you would never believe. The black woman is now supporting that black man, and she's encouraging him. When I say support, I mean helpmate. She becomes his helpmate and not the white man's helpmate. See, the black woman was always the white man's helpmate. But so therefore, he needs to direct that attention back to him, not to her own husband, not to her own black man. So when you put us back together again, the black man and the black woman begin to rise up in their capital, in their nation building, in all aspects that scares the white man.
We see today, and Honorable Elijah Muhammad talked about this. He said, in the last days, the white man will give you his woman. And you see that today. Now they're pushing Caucasian males with black women all over the place as well. So it's on both sides.
It's on both sides.
What's the play on that?
The play on that is that there's always an intentional design to make sure we are mixing of the race, because ultimately they want to divide the black family. You have to understand the black family has been the focus of, we've dismissed it. We've dismissed it, and we've intentionally kind of like taken a blind eye to it. You know, back in 1977 and in 1960s, you know, black families stayed together. The intermixing didn't really exist on a scale that it exists today. And the reason is because the black family knew, our ancestors and our grandparents and all of our great-great-grandparents, they knew the power of the black family. But in our generation today, these young children, our young millennials, have no idea what the black family does. They have no idea of the genocide that was intentionally designed to destroy them. They don't understand that black on black violence was instituted to what? To the destruction of the black man and the black woman. They don't understand that the mass incarceration rate was done on purpose. See, mass incarceration is nothing more than slavery. You're taking them back to slavery for free wages. The white man again begins to receive what's called an economic privilege again. Because now he gets the labor in which he had to pay billions for, he gets that for nothing, pennies on a dollar. America is built on an economic system that we don't understand as a black nation. We don't understand economic wealth. We don't understand what the white man is after. And he's really not after this color of our skin. He's really after his economic power and his economic wealth. And he will be relentless until he keeps, and he will be relentless to destroy anything that comes into his play that will ruin his economic privilege in this country.
You know, sister, I'm seeing something here, and it's relating to what we recently saw here about a day or two ago with this school shooting and
Yes.
the white male privilege that happens in America, how they can just do whatever they want and there's no consequence. And they allow them to buy all the guns they want, because if it's any black person buying a gun, just like the brother in Dallas, Rakeem Balagoon, you want to call them black identity extremists when they're in a Second Amendment rights group. Blacks can't have that, right? But they can have militias, they can have whatever. Now, we had school shootings, and all of them that participated in these school shootings, that's intentional, were Caucasian males. So it seemed like their own violent nature is turning on them to this day. So with the slavery that you were talking about earlier, even the 13th Amendment that supposedly freed slaves, but it did not free slaves at all. And then their own nature is turning against them. What kind of future would that have for us? Because they're literally having their own internal war.
They are. And but you know what? This war is no different than the wars in which they participated for centuries. The white man is built on killing each other. That's what they do. You know, we don't really have that in our history line of killing and destroying each other, except when we talk about black on black violence. And see, they had to institute black on black violence so that we would participate and we would be a part of what they have intentionally put in front of us. But the white man, you must understand that black on black violence is quite different than what they're doing, because what white people have is a mental illness. They have a mental illness that comes from years of depression, years of feeling excluded as a people, years of separation from Africa, years of being ostracized by black people or Africans that they originally wanted to be a part of. There's an anger and a hatred that has been brewing for centuries. They don't really understand. The white person today doesn't really understand where this dismissal and this hatred comes from. They hate their own people. They hate other people. That's a big sign of mental illness. Mental illness is what the white man has never addressed in their own population. They go to psychiatrists, but nothing seems to get better. They go to therapy, but nothing seems to work, because the evil is embedded in them from many centuries of hatred, because of a rejection, because of a depression from a rejection, because Africans, basically, they believe Africans excluded them, pushed them out. And they can never forgive that. It's like a people that they initially in Africa loved so much rejected them. They felt a rejected people.
So what you said makes so much sense in a way, because now they had Jim Crow. They still to this day have Jim Crow. They just refined it. They don't just put things on a wall and say no blacks allowed. They just raise it to a certain price point, or they have certain requirements for entry into something to keep it whites only. But the moment black people say, okay, let's go ahead and have our own schools. So this is what someone have told me. I say, listen, black people, we create our own schools because I'm tired of seeing our children discriminated against. I'm tired of teachers walking on their backs in school, suspending our black children for their hairstyles. Let's do our own. And anytime we say let's do our own, not harm them, not cuss them, not nothing to them, they be the biggest proponents against it. Anytime black people say let's do for self, they're against it. You say, hey, let's go shop at join the black banks. Why it has to you go to a black bank? Like, dog, you act like you work for JP Morgan or Chase.
Right.
What is it with them with that?
I mean, you're asking, what the question that you're asking is for us to identify with their own mental illness, identify with what their true issue is. And we know what their true issue is. It's a feeling of, again, rejection. It's a feeling of not belonging. We got to really take a look at psychology. We really got to practice and understand the principles of psychology and conditioning and behaviorism. See, it was laid down for as many years. We just didn't open the books to take a look at it. The conditioning of white people and what white people have done to us is all in the psychology books. The behaviorism, the ways that they've put into and institutionalized genocide into our communities is all a part of the psychological plan. We don't understand psychology. And once we begin to understand conditioning, classical conditioning, operant conditioning methods, we understand behaviorism, where the theory comes from and how you can control the minds of a people through the very essence of certain practices, then it becomes clear. What we're fighting is a mental illness in this country. We're not fighting a normal state of mind. We're fighting a mentally disturbed population of the white man. And that also crosses over to our own Black people. So the question is that does white supremacy exist in our own people? Absolutely. White supremacy exists in our own people. So when we go out there, the movement for Black power, as well as all these other movements, we're not fighting just against the white man. See, there is no hatred. We're against hatred. We fight for the protection of our people. But we also are fighting a major component. We're fighting against our own people who have white supremacy installed inside of them. We all have a trauma that comes from the slave trade. In our generation, my mother's mother, my mother's mother, there's always the dark secrets of the South. There's always this trauma that goes from generation to your next generation. And what we have to do as a nation is start to deal with the trauma that we've experienced.
You know, I've said many times before, Black people, we all need to sit down with some brothers and sisters in the community who know about psychology, who care about us, and who definitely have the eye open, right? To just let us talk to them and be healed, because a lot of us are hurting and we need to be healed. Because think about it. If they talk about PTSD with 9/11, right? And that's one event. Imagine Black people our whole lives dealing with events like that, death, destruction, you know, disease that we have to deal with due to certain conditions. We're not eating the right foods, just because a lot of times we just don't know better. And then they put in GMOs in our foods. I mean, we really, really have a problem. And it seems like, you know, we so screwed up that we love anything with white people, but automatically Black, we hate it. It's like on autopilot.
That's right.
And so any Black person that has cultural pride, or any Black person that feel you're not going to devalue me as a Black person, they get more angry at you before the white supremacists get mad at you.
Absolutely. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. And what makes it so awful is that even for our own Black businesses, I support Black businesses, by the way, extremely supportive. But one thing I want to say is that our own people would dismiss a Black business and go to a white business first because they've been trained to do that. They will walk past a Black business and give it to the white business just because it looks better, just because of the color of the skin or the person behind the counter is a white man or a white woman. You know, we're running from our own race. We're running from an identity and an identity crisis. We're running from what it means to be an African people. We're running from the beauty of Africa. If you look at it, we're running from our skin color. We're running. It's a trauma there. There's a trauma that we have to answer. And this is why on April 18th through the 22nd, we are hosting the National Black Men's Convention, hosted by attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz. There will be a number of workshops where people can come and deal with this trauma. They can come in and work it out and network and meet some psychological professionals, can meet other people in the business arena to change our mindset about what it means to be Black, what it means to be a Black nation of our own, what it means to be respectful of the Pan-African principles that have been laid down by the Honorable Marcus Garvey. I just want you to know there's been so many ancestors that have laid the framework. Delaney, Garvey, and Nkrumah, they have all paved the way for us to pay attention. Cress Welsing, they've all laid the principles and the foundation. Dr. Khalid Muhammad, I mean, how many times have we been told? But it's now time to put it into practice. This is why we got to be a part of a movement. We got to be a part of the National Black Men's Convention that's going to happen. We got to be a part of the 10,000 Black Men's March, April 18th through the 22nd. 21st is the march. We got to get out there and march. Let me tell you, marching is a sign of Black power. It's a sign of Black pride. It's a sign that we have not given up on our people. You know, people have to understand that the Ku Klux Klan, their marching, their actions, even in Charlottesville, and their massive attacks on their own people, on Black people, we always must understand we have to counteract what the white man is doing. We have to show them that no matter what, we are a unified people. And we don't have this hatred in our heart. There is no hatred, but we will defend to protect our people.
I think this is going to sum it all up. Donald Trump. Do you think Donald Trump is actually been good for Black people?
Donald Trump has been an awakening for Black people. You know, thank you, Donald Trump, for awakening our people. Donald Trump is a pawn, a model, a piece that is put in position to show us what the real enemy and who the real enemy is, which is not just Donald Trump. He's the model. He is the pawn piece. But when you take a look behind Donald Trump, we have a Congress that is based on racist movements. We have judges that have been sitting on benches for years in the South that need to be removed. See, Donald Trump awakens us to a larger, bigger enemy than we've ever imagined. And that is the congressional unit that sits behind him. Those are the judges that sit on those benches and will make those rulings and send our brothers to jail day in and day out. Now, I'm not saying that it's all, but there are many that are not doing the right thing by all people. And Donald Trump is calling an awakening to what is really happening behind the scenes that we have no idea of. So do I think Donald Trump is good for this nation? He's good only in the respect of an awakening for Black people. It is time for us to wise up, shape up, and start to work for ourselves, put ourselves, and don't have this hatred amongst each other. We are not each other's enemy. We are not each other's enemy. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my sister's keeper? Yes, I am. I have no fight against the Black man. I have no fight against the Black woman. We must rise and unite as a people. We must rise and unite as a nation, our own nation. We don't want the white man's handouts. We want our own. And that's what we have to start working towards, and always be respectful and acknowledge Africa, because our culture is at stake here. If we do away with Africa, we have lost all the teachings to be able to teach our children where they come from and what and how proud they should be as the people. Their culture, their practices, the way they clean themselves, the way they love music, the way they love culture, the way they open their eyes to certain things that the white man has never done. That's a part of our history and our culture. The way we praise in the local churches, the way we advocate, the way we talk, the way we speak, all of it is a proud moment in our history. We must never deviate from that. This is why the 10,000 Black Men's March, we must keep on marching. You must come out April 21st. April 21st in Washington, D.C. You must be on the front line marching. Don't give up on marching. Marching was never supposed, we never supposed to give up showing Black pride in our community. The Black Men's National Convention from the 18th through the 22nd, you got to come out because there are expungement workshops, there is economic workshops, there are job training workshops, there is every workshop that you could never imagine. And all these workshops are designed to rise the Black people up. We have a Get on the Bus campaign that's going to be coming out of every city, out of Texas, out of Atlanta, out of New York City, out of Philadelphia, all over. And we're asking that everybody gets on the bus on this day, April 18th through the 22nd. And to find out more information, I want everybody who's listening to your cast to make sure that they're going to www.blackmensmovement.org and get on the bus, because as a unit, we have to be a unified front to up the almighty nation.
Okay, that's blackmensmovement.org. We'll make sure to put that in the pinned comment. Now, Dr. Amy, how can people get in contact with you? Because I know you're going to inspire a lot of people, especially a lot of our sisters, because our sisters definitely need the inspiration as well from very, very strong Black women like yourself. So how could people get in contact with you?
They can always reach me by calling 202-549-4205. Again, I'll repeat it, 202-549-4205. And one thing I just want to say is that this national convention, you know, it has the symbol of Black Men's Convention. But let me say this. I am a strong, supportive woman of our strong Black men. The Black woman is nothing without our kings. We're nothing without them. We need them for our protection, for our survival. You know, without the Black man, we create a Black woman is nothing more than a misogynist woman. And a misogynist woman believes that she can do it on her own. She doesn't need the Black man for anything. She can walk and she's better than the Black man. It's a feminist approach. Black people are not, we are not each other's enemy. We've never have been each other's enemy. The feminist movement was a movement that was installed by white women. White women installed, they fought against their white men. Black women never fought against Black men, not in this manner. We are not a feminist movement. We are a woman that's supportive of our Black kings. It is very important that we understand the principles, the key principles, and how we can make this work to up the almighty nation. This is why I'm a major supporter of the Black Men's Convention. The Black men need a chance to work it out on their own. But as sisters, we need a time to talk too, and the convention is open for all women. It's open for us to come and talk about some things and how we can be a better woman for the Black man. And the things that we need to do for our own self-empowerment, our own self-confidence, because the confidence and the depression of a Black woman has gotten to an all-time low. So it's some things that we have to work on as women. And so this is why it's so imperative that we come out to these conventions, we come out to these marches, and we're an active participant, because we cannot survive without each other.
Well, Dr. Amy, let me tell you something, sister. You're a very powerful sister, and I don't say that lightly at all. You know, you really can feel the energy, you know, coming from you when you speak. And we definitely need more sisters and brothers to be speaking with that much passion and fire, because a lot of us are broken. Sometimes, like they say, dry wood catch on fire faster. So we need that. And I definitely appreciate you for joining us today and just answering a lot of questions, because I wanted to cover all bases, because, you know, we have different levels of knowledge with, you know, Black people. Some don't know a thing, and then some do. So we want to keep it sometimes simplistic for them to understand. But, you know, Dr. Amy, you gave us the number for people to contact you. Do you have any kind of social media possibly?
Yeah, social media. Again, you can visit www.movementforblackpower.com, or you can visit www.blackmensmovement.org and buy your tickets to the convention and set up yourself for the March and the Get on the Bus campaign.
All right. We'll put all those links in the pinned comment, ladies and gentlemen. But Dr. Amy, thank you so much, you know, for coming by and just sharing with us. I've learned a lot just by talking to you.
I love you, brother. Thank you so much for all you do.